Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us today. It's fantastic to have so many of you with us today. Whether you are a solar retailer, installer, or someone looking to better understand the latest battery incentives, we really appreciate you being with us here. The battery market has changed incredibly quickly over the past 12 months. We've seen the launch of federal battery STC program, continued growth of BESS2, and recently the introduction of BESS3, BESS4, and BESS5. With so many programs available, it's becoming harder to keep up with what's available, what customers are eligible for, and how to maximize the incentives. That's exactly why we're here today. Over the next 30 minutes, we will simplify the New South Wales battery incentives landscape and show you which incentive applies to which customer, how these incentives can be combined, the common mistakes that delays or reduce claims, and how GreenDeal can help you process everything from one platform. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Feel free to submit your questions anytime using the chat function. We will answer as many questions as possible during the webinar. If we run out of time, we will make sure we follow up on any unanswered questions after the webinar. We won't leave you hanging there. So let's get started. Before we dive in, just a quick introduction to who we are. At GreenDeal, we make battery incentives simple. We look after everything from calculating incentive and collecting evidence to compliance, certificate creation, trading, and payment. That means you can spend more time growing your business and looking after your customers while we handle the paperwork and compliance. 5 years ago, everyone was talking about solar. Today, the conversation has shifted to batteries. Solar growth is slowing, but battery demand is growing very rapidly. At the same time, government has introduced multiple incentives programs. Solar retailers who understand these incentives will have a significant competitive advantage. Here are two charts showing the battery market changes in New South Wales. The chart on the left uses megawatt hours, not estimated number of installations during the BESS1 era. The chart on the right shows monthly installation quantity from CER data since the federal program began. Battery installation accelerated significantly since July 2025, and we believe September will mark another major step with BESS3, BESS4, and BESS5. The market is moving very quickly, so now is the right time to prepare. Batteries are no longer just a residential product. Today, there are incentive programs covering homeowners and small businesses, apartment buildings, commercial SMEs, and CNI sites. This opens entirely new customer segments for solar retailers. Let's answer the questions we hear almost every day. Which incentive applies? Fortunately, it's actually very simple. Start with site type, then identify the battery size, then determine whether new solar is involved, and finally, check whether a VPP is required. Once you've answered all these questions, the pathway becomes quite straightforward. Rather than me reading every line here, I'd like to highlight 4 key differences. First, the federal STC requires PV on site. Second, only BESS2 requires a VPP. Third, BESS3, 4, and 5 targets progressively larger size. Finally, remember the federal battery STCs can generally be stackable with New South Wales incentives. Let's begin with the incentive everyone will probably use, the federal battery STCs. This is an upfront rebate based on battery capacity. For most residential customers, this will become the largest immediate discount on their invoice. BESS2 is different. This isn't simply an installation incentive as all the other incentives work. It's a participation incentive. Customers receive additional value by connecting their battery to a virtual power plant. This is on top of the battery STCs received from the installation. That's why we require a VPP agreement. Here's a real work example. This customer receives roughly $1,500 from BESS2. On top of that, they can still receive the federal battery STCs. That's exactly why we always recommend discussing both incentives together. BESS3 is designed specifically for apartment buildings. There are a few key eligibility requirements. The battery serves common properties or multiple dwellings, and there must be at least 4 dwellings. Please be aware there can't always be there can't already be an existing battery system on site. One thing I'd like everyone to remember is the bonus available when the battery is installed within 90 days of the new PVs. Installing new PV increased the incentive significantly. Again, rather than me focusing on every number here, notice how quickly the incentives grow as the battery size increases. Once you move beyond residential systems, the value becomes substantial. BESS4 targets small and medium-sized businesses. Think about retail shops, offices, etc. The biggest message here is, again, if the battery installed within 90 days of the new PVs, the battery incentive increased dramatically. This is very similar as BESS3 we just talked about. Here's a perfect sales conversation. The customer already wants a battery. By adding appropriately sized new PVs, they don't just receive PV and battery STCs, they also increase the BESS4 incentives. That's a much easier sales pitch than trying to sell solar or battery on its own. Again, the exact numbers will change with certificate prices, but what doesn't change is the pattern. Pairing battery with new PVs consistently creates significantly more value. BESS5 is aimed at large commercial and industrial projects. These are much larger batteries and correspondingly much larger incentives. While fewer installers currently working in this market, the value per project can be enormous. These are the types of projects we expect to see: shopping centers, warehouses, shops, schools, factories, and hospitals. Every one of these facilities has significant energy consumption, making batteries an increasingly attractive investment. We won't spend much time today on talking about planning legislation, but the key takeaway is simple. Not every battery requires a DA. Many smaller systems qualify as exempt development or compliant development, but always check the planning requirement before your installation. This is really the only and whole message we're trying to deliver today. Don't think about individual incentives. Think about stacking them together. The best project combines PV STCs, battery STCs, New South Wales incentives to maximize the total customer benefit. Here's the baseline. A commercial battery with existing solar, it's already a very valuable project. But let's see what happens when we add some new solars. Same battery, same customer. The only difference is adding appropriately sized new PVs. Suddenly, the battery incentive itself increases. Plus, the customer receives additional PV STCs. That's why we always encourage retailers to quote the battery and solar together whenever it's possible. Here are some issues we see every day, like missing evidence, wrong product, incorrect signatures, existing batteries being claimed incorrectly. Most delays aren't caused by the regulator. They are caused by avoidable paperwork issue. Compliance isn't just one document. It's a complete journey. If every step is done correctly, certificate creation becomes straightforward. Missing one step and delays become much more likely. Everything we've discussed today can become quite complicated. The GreenDeal brings all of these steps into one platform, like one calculator, one workflow, one evidence collection process, and one submission. That's how we reduce administration while improving compliance. These are the questions we receive most frequently. Hopefully, today's webinar has already answered many of those. Before we move into the Q&A session, I'd like to invite my colleague Luke from One Stop Warehouse to give you a brief overview of their battery products. After that, we'll come back and answer as many of your questions as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. I'm Luke, C&I Product Manager from One Stop Warehouse. GreenDeal's just walked you through how the certificates work, the STCs and the BESS2, all the way through to BESS5. So I'll keep my bit short and practical. My job for the next few minutes is the part that sits underneath all of that, the hardware, because every one of these incentives lives or dies by the product. Quick word on who we are, then we'll get into it. One Stop Warehouse is Australia's largest solar and battery distributor, 13 years in, 6 warehouses around the country. What that means for you is simple. The batteries, the inverters and panels behind every activity GreenDeal just showed you, we stock them. And we've got the platforms to design and claim them to. Here's one thing I want you to take away. Before a single certificate can get created, the job has 4 product checks. The battery has to be CEC approved and on the current register for that activity. The inverter has to be compliant. It has to meet the output and the warranty rules and be installed to Australian standards. It must be sized correctly. Battery capacity no more than 6 times the inverter output. And remember, the capacity that actually counts is the lowest of your usable capacity of 4 times the inverter kilowatts. If you want the bonus rate, you pair new solar. Miss any of these, and it doesn't matter how good the paperwork is, the job can't be claimed. Get the product right, and everything downstream just works. The good news is, you don't need to shop around to hit every band. The same range covers a lot. Home and small business batteries, 7 kilowatt hour product through to 261 kilowatt hour single solution. We have it all. VPP ready for your STC BESS2 jobs. Apartment and strata systems for BESS3. Commercial hybrids for BESS4 and multi-cabinet C&I solutions for BESS5 sites. One supplier, every site type. Just double check the model on the current approved list in GreenSketch or GreenDeal before you quote. When you're specifying, match the inverter to the battery. The inverter sets a ceiling. It drives how fast you get connection approval, and it caps the capacity that counts that 4 times the inverter kilowatts. The battery sets a value. More usable capacity, more certificates, up to each band's cap. So the play is to maximize usable battery inside a fast approval inverter band. Our pre-match packages and GreenSketch get that ratio right by design. You end up sized to the claim the most, not just a size to fit. If you add new solar, at least a quarter of the battery's usable capacity installed within 90 days. You lift the PRC rate on the battery itself right through to BESS3 to BESS5, and you pick up the STCs on the panels on top of that, fully adaptive. We supply both sides, JA, Trina, Canadian Solar, plus battery, all in one order, one delivery. So to wrap it up, eligible product in stock, ready to claim, OSW for the product, GreenSketch to design and quote it, GreenDeal to claim it and get you paid. One connected run from quote through to payment. Have a chat to your OSW account manager or jump on osw.energy and get your packages pre-matched, so the incentive's locked in from the very start. Thanks, everyone. I'll hand you back to Vicky.
Thanks, Luke. Before we jump on the Q&A session, please scan the QR code on the screen right now. So that will lead you to our battery calculator on our website. If you have any upcoming project you want to discuss about how many STC combined with PRCs you can calculate and the incentive you can offer to your client, feel free to email us on prc@greendeal.com.au. Okay, let's take the question now. Okay, the first question, how the new BESS rebates work, the end-to-end process from sales to certificate trading, and how to correctly advise and sell to customer. That's a great question, and there's a lot involved if I have to answer this question in details. But to keep it simple, the new BESS rebates provides financial incentive for eligible battery installation. GreenDeal managed the whole process from calculation, evidence collection, compliance check, certificate creation, trade, and all the process, so you can confidently offer the right incentive to your customer. Next question, please. How BESS3 to BESS5 affect the installer market? That's the exciting part, and probably the million-dollar question as well. BESS3 and BESS5 open up to the entirely new opportunities beyond the residential area, allowing installers to expand into apartment buildings, SMEs, and C&I sites. That's definitely exciting. Yep. Next question, please. When application can start for the New South Wales PDRS? Yeah, application for BESS3, 4, and 5 can start once the activity commences on 1st of September. The GreenDeal will notify you as soon as possible when our system is up and running. Yep. Next question. What commercial and residential incentives are available? Yeah, so the residential incentive, like for residential customers, can access federal battery STCs, of course, and BESS2 incentives in New South Wales. And the commercial customer can access BESS4 and BESS5 incentives and where apartment buildings customers can access BESS3. Yep, the next question, please. Whether BESS4 PRCs and battery STCs can be combined for retrofit battery-only installation on site for existing eligible PV. The short answer is yes. The BESS4 PRC definitely can be combined with federal STCs for the eligible battery with battery-only installation when there's an existing PV on site. Yes, next question, please. Document compliance requirement for BESS4 compared to a standard 100 kilowatt STC job. Yes, so during the webinar today, we haven't really focused on the compliance side to list all the documents required for each activity. But to answer the questions, a BESS4 document, they include almost everything you collect for a standard 100 kilowatt STC job. And there are a few additional documents required to meet the PDRS requirement, such as the signing a nomination form, proof of customer payment, battery eligibility details, and of course, if you are claiming there's existing PV on site within 90 days, we'll need evidence for that as well. Yes, next question. Commercial battery plans, rebates, duration, and pricing structure for CNI installation. For commercial battery project, GreenDeal can work with you on a case-by-case basis. Once you have a project, we can explore looking for a forward contract, so you can provide your customer more certainty on the returns and give yourself more confidence on the return value as well. Our current offer is standard payment once your PRC certificates are approved by IPART. But as the market mature, we will always just come back, continue review our pricing and payment structure, and maybe potentially offering finance product in the future to support our customer. Next question, please. Who applies for payment on BESS4 and 5, installer or customer? The similar as STCs. So GreenDeal managed the entire certificate process on behalf of you, the solar retailers. So from the application and certificate creation and trading. So once the PRC are sold, the traded value are returned to you, the solar retailers. The commercial agreement between you and your customer, including how you're pricing your product and how much incentive you want to share, remain between you and your customer. Yep. Okay, so unfortunately, we only have time to take one last questions before we call it a day. So let's take the last question. Multiple tax invoices for proof of comment requirements. Yes, of course. It doesn't have to be one invoice. Multiple tax invoices are definitely acceptable, as long as the total amount paid by the customer meets the minimum co-payment requirement before we assess the job. So, okay, so that's the last question we answered during the webinar session. And that's bring us to the end of today's webinar. The battery market is evolving very rapidly, and there has never been a better time to get involved. So whether you already start processing battery STCs or you want to involve with New South Wales BESS activities, simply just explore GreenDeal's website and contact our team to give you any support at any stage. And don't forget to scan the QR code on the screen, and so you can keep updates with our promo and compliance updates after this webinar. And thank you so much, everyone, again, to take your time to join us. We really appreciate your support. Thanks. Bye.